So what do you get when you combine ancient scripture with modern hip-hop culture and then power the whole thing with some seriously advanced AI? Well, you get something like this. We're going to dive into the Hip-Hop Bible's AI blueprint.
Bet the whole bag on the Lord. He'll clear the debris and put the straight in your lane. I mean, listen to that. The rhythm, the slang, it feels both totally familiar if you know hip-hop and completely new at the same time. This is the biblical book of Proverbs, but reimagined. So how does something like this even happen? And maybe more importantly, why?
Okay, this side-by-side comparison is where it really clicks. Over on the left, you've got the King James Version, 17th century English. And on the right, pure 21st century hip-hop. The words couldn't be more different. But the core idea, that call to trust a higher power instead of just your own gut, that is kept perfectly intact. It's pretty wild.
All right, so to really get how this all works, here's the game plan. We're going to start with what the project actually is, look at its mission, then pull back the curtain on the AI itself. How it works, how they control it, the rules it has to follow, and finally, what happens when you mash up faith, culture, and computer code. So first things first, let's talk about the project itself. The official name is the Only Black American Hip-Hop Bible. It's a project from Go Hard Unlimited Enterprises and Lester DeBoue. And you got to understand, this isn't just a gimmick. It's a really serious effort to engage with culture and provide something for personal devotion.
And here's a super important word to keep in mind: paraphrase. This is not a translation. They're not trying to do a word-for-word swap. The whole point is to re-express the original meaning, the original feeling, but in a totally different language and cultural style to make it hit differently for a new audience.
And that idea leads us right into the project's core mission, what they call remixing the KJV. It's all about this really tricky balancing act between holding on to the original message while translating the culture.
So the mission is kind of like a recipe with three main ingredients. First, you take the theological weight and seriousness of the King James Bible. Second, you infuse it with the poetry, the rhythm, and the real talk of hip-hop. And third, and this is crucial, you do all of it with a deep respect for both the Black American church and the realities of the street. It's a huge undertaking. So you might be asking, how on earth do you actually do that? And that brings us to the most mind-bending part of all this, the AI's blueprint. The entire thing runs on a ridiculously detailed master prompt that basically gives the AI its marching orders. Think of this prompt as a set of blueprints, broken down into different modules. The first one gives the AI its identity. Another sets down the hard and fast theological rules. Then you have one that defines the exact voice and style. Another tells it what to actually do. And, super important, there are safety modules to make sure the final text is always respectful. Now this is where it gets really clever. This AI blueprint isn't just an on or off switch. It actually lets you control the stylistic intensity. You can literally dial in the vibe you're looking for. And this chart shows you exactly how. You can set the AI to light, right? That's going to give you mostly standard English with just a little bit of hip-hop flavor sprinkled in. Medium gives you a more balanced mix. Or you can crank that thing all the way to max and get dense slang, multi-syllable rhymes, and a cadence that sounds like it's straight off a record. I mean, this quote right here, which is pulled straight from the AI's instructions, just says it all. Keep it street real but sacred. That's the creative tightrope they're walking. The language has to feel authentic, it has to be real, but the message itself has to stay sacred. But walking a tightrope like that, well, it takes more than just a good motto. It takes some serious rules. And that brings us to what might be the most important part of the whole setup, the doctrinal guardrails. These are the strict rules given to the AI to make sure the final product stays theologically on track. And the instructions are crystal clear. The AI is told, do not remove miracles. Do not deny core beliefs, like the divinity of Christ. Do not add any new stuff. But on the other side, it's told, you may use metaphors from street life to explain things. You may focus on themes of justice. And you may speak from the real lived experience of Black America. It's freedom, but within very firm boundaries. And inside those boundaries, the prompt makes one thing absolutely clear. The tone needs to be unapologetic. This is not supposed to be some watered-down, timid experiment. The instruction for a heavy, unapologetic hip-hop tone is a full-throated commitment to the project's voice.
So let's bring this all home. This is where we see it all come together. The faith, the culture, the code, and how this incredibly detailed blueprint actually builds the final text that you read.
See, the AI isn't a one-trick pony. The user can tell it to do different things. You can ask it to just paraphrase a passage, plain and simple.
Or you can have it create that dual column view we saw earlier. And for the creatives out there, there's even a bar development mode that spits out multiple options for artists to use as inspiration when they're writing songs.
And that flexibility really shows you who this is for. It's not just some academic project. It's a tool, right? A tool for someone's personal quiet time, for a youth pastor trying to connect with kids, or for a Christian hip-hop artist who's looking for a fresh way to engage with the text.
Ultimately, a project like this leaves us with a really big question. It's a bold, it's specific, and it's a technologically fascinating attempt to bridge a cultural gap. And it really makes you think, as our technology and our cultures keep changing at warp speed, how are we going to keep translating and re-expressing our most foundational texts for the generations to come?